We are live.
Good morning. This meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the October 5th, 2020 virtual meeting of the Durham Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Katie Hamilton, and I am the chair of this commission. As always, the commission is a quasi-judicial board of record, and as such, all testimony will be recorded. Under the digital procedures, this meeting will also be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. The proceedings of this board are governed by the zoning laws as recorded. Before we begin today's evidentiary hearings, please note the steps we have taken to ensure that each party's due process rights are protected as we proceed in this remote platform. First, today's meeting will be conducted in accordance with the enacted statutes in Session Law 2020-3, which allow for remote meetings and quasi-judicial hearings during declarations of emergency. Second, each applicant on today's agenda has consented to the board conducting the evidentiary hearing on their request using this remote platform. We will also confirm today at the start of each evidentiary hearing that the participants consent to the matter proceeding in this remote platform. If there is any objection to a matter proceeding in this remote platform, the case will be continued. Third, notice of this meeting was provided to all applicants and to the public in multiple ways, including signage posted on site, notification letters mailed to all adjacent property owners, informing recipients regarding the remote platform, and a general announcement via the city's website. The notices for today's meeting advise the public on how to access the remote meeting as the meeting occurs. Individuals wishing to participate in today's evidentiary hearings were required to register prior to the meeting. Information about this registration requirement, along with information about how to sign up to participate, was included in the mailed notice letters sent to each adjacent property owner. This information was also included on the board's website. The public was advised to contact the city immediately in case of objection to the evidentiary hearing or to the remote meeting platform. No case is proceeding today in which the city has been contacted by an individual with an objection to the case or to the matter being heard in this remote meeting platform. All individuals participating in today's evidentiary hearings were also required to submit a copy of any presentation, document, exhibit, or other material they wish to submit as evidence prior to today's meeting. All material that the city received from the participants for today's cases, as well as a copy of city staff's presentations and documents, were posted online with our meeting agenda prior to this meeting via Durham's Agenda Center. Finally, all individuals who registered to participate in an evidentiary hearing on today's agenda, as well as all city staff participants, were emailed a witness oath and consent to a remote hearing form prior to today's meeting that they were required to sign prior to this meeting. We will also reaffirm everyone's oath on the record at today's meeting. Are there any members of this board that would have any conflicts of interest with regard to either of the cases that are here before us today?
I do, Katie. Andy.
Okay, Andy. Okay, which case?
The Inglewood
Okay.
case.
Okay, thank you. And then are there any requests for early dismissal today or time constraints?
I do. Unfortunately, I had to squeeze a meeting in. I have to leave at 9:45.
Okay. Thank you, April.
And Katie, this is Matt. I've got a 10:30 hard stop.
Okay. With that, no one else had any other needs for early dismissal, correct?
No, Wanda.
Okay. Thanks, Wanda.
Wanda, 10:30.
Okay. All right, then. As the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, I'd like to remind everyone that our quasi-judicial hearings function similar to court proceedings. Staff will first present an overview of the case, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to present their evidence. Opponents, if there are any, may then present their evidence, and the applicant may then present a rebuttal to that opponent. Members will refrain from questions or comments until each speaker has completed his or her presentation. Testimony should consist of facts each witness knows directly, not hearsay, and evidence already presented should not be repeated.
Hold on.
All witnesses who have signed up in advance will be given the opportunity to speak and their testimony will be recorded. The board will vote on each case after the presentation of all evidence, pro and con, concerning each case. And the decisions of this board are subject to the appeal of the Board of Adjustment and then to the Durham County Superior Court. And with that, Madam Clerk, Terry, can you please take attendance of those HPC members in attendance today?
Sure. Vice Chair Bouchard,
Present.
Commissioner Dayan,
Present.
Commissioner DeBerry,
Here.
Commissioner Goolsby,
Here.
Chair Hamilton,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Jordan, Commissioner Krager,
Here.
Commissioner Waiters.
Present.
Thank you. And with the attendance having been taken, we will now review and if appropriate, approve the minutes from the August 4th HPC meeting. You should have gotten an email this evening with
Good morning, Chair Hamilton. Grace here. If for some reason you would like to put that at the end of the agenda because you might want a few more minutes to look those over, that's fine. But if you're ready to approve now, staff would be very thankful. And sorry for the late notice.
has everyone had an opportunity to review?
I'm skimming it right now, but if everyone else already read it, we can move forward.
Were there any known adjustments to the minutes needed? All right. Hearing none. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
It's
I'll
Andy
move.
Goolsby. I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Jonathan is the second. All right. So Commissioner Goolsby makes the motion and Commissioner Dayan seconds. Terry, can I get a roll call vote to approve them?
Yes, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waiters,
Yes.
Commissioner Dan,
Yes.
let's see, Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bouchard,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBerry,
Yes.
Commissioner Goolsby,
Yes.
and Commissioner Krager.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, and now I think, Terry, if we can proceed with the swearing in of all of the city staff that will present with today's cases.
Okay. Do you members of staff and citizens swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the public hearing proceedings for today's cases is the truth by your own knowledge, information, or belief?
No.
Is it just Deegan and Bo? I have to
Grace
swear.
Smith, I do as well.
Okay. Thank you. And then, do the staff need a consent to the digital hearing? No. Okay. Perfect. Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing, Chair Hamilton, you may consider, I know we only have 2 cases, so we might not be pressed for time. However, if you may consider reordering the agenda so that the case that Commissioner Goolsby can sit on, cannot sit on, maybe goes first, since we have some folks that might need to leave early. Or if you think time's not an issue, that's fine as well. I just thought I would throw that out there.
sure. I mean, does anyone It's an hour and 20 minutes to get through 2 cases. Do we feel like that's possible, or do we think?
The Englewood case, I think, is going to be a quick one. I hope.
Okay. All right. So we can reorder with that adjustment to the agenda. If everyone is in agreement, we can vote on that.
I think it's probably best to vote on that, or you can just ask if there's any objection from the board.
Is there any objection from the board to reordering today's agenda to move the Englewood case first? All right, hearing none, we will proceed with case COA 2000060, 2103 Englewood Avenue. Madam Clerk, can you please swear in the witnesses for this case?
Yes. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the public hearing proceedings for today's case is the truth by your own information, knowledge, or belief?
I do.
And then Miss, forgive me if I pronounce your last name wrong, Shimron?
Shimron.
Okay, Shimron, can you also confirm that you consent to today's hearing being done in this remote digital platform?
I do.
Great. And now with that, is there another?
Yeah, sorry, Matt Dreps. I finally figured out the technology. I also agree to the oath.
Okay, and the digital platform as well.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. And now we will proceed with the staff summary. On this one, I believe is Keegan.
Yeah. Okay. So case number COA 2000060. This is at 2103 Englewood Avenue. It is a proposed addition to the back porch, ripping out a lot of the enclosed porch that exists now, but maintaining the foundation, installing new floor system to add a bathroom and another bedroom, and then a back porch in addition to that in the back. So
They only be adding a bathroom and a screen porch. The bedroom is existing in the house. We're just coming off of the bedroom.
okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, adding the bathroom, screen porch, re-enclosing, and then moving windows onto the new facade painted to match the existing. So with that, I would like to enter the staff report into the record and give the applicant the opportunity to speak.
All right, and then if y'all have anything you'd like to speak to in regards to this application, please feel free to do so now.
I can speak. I mean, the proposal is basically just to essentially replace what's there with something slightly larger that looks almost identical to what's, to the style of what's there now. The back porch currently is just, I mean, it's not something that can be used as habitable space. So that just comes down, and then when that's coming down, it just seemed appropriate to go ahead and increase the size a little bit to accommodate a screen porch along with the bathroom. So, I mean, when it goes back together, then we will be reusing the window that is currently on the back of the house. So it matches all the other 4/1 windows that are there now. And then the addition will be, clad in the same siding and painted the same. And homeowner already has some extra copper gutter that will go up to match. So it's, essentially going to look like it's always been there.
All right.
Oh, and it's all on the back of the house and can't be seen from the street.
Thank you. Are there any opponents to this case present today? All right, hearing none. Do any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? I think Jonathan might have been right. This might be a fast case. So with no questions from commissioners, we can close this portion of the hearing. And is there any need for internal discussion amongst commissioners on this? Nope.
This is Matt. Very quickly, normally the staff reports contain the staff's analysis of compliance with the criteria. I would be curious to hear Keegan's analysis of whether or not the window changes that have been proposed do meet the criteria.
Yeah, that was actually something, one of the reasons there wasn't an explicit recommendation in the staff report. Oh, sorry, Keegan Sacropani Planning Department. One of the reasons there wasn't an explicit recommendation in the staff report was just me being relatively new to reviewing these. I wasn't sure whether that would constitute something concerning. The sash windows in that style are something that are mentioned in the historic register description of the house, but it's also at the back of the house. If visible only like at an angle from the right of way. So I didn't know if that constitutes something character defining. And the replacement windows do fit in with the style, match some of the existing windows. So whether that would be reducing the conformity and matching appearance of the district was something that I also did not feel comfortable coming down one way or the other on.
Can I interject? This is Matt Dreps. The window that's actually going to be on the rear porch when it's complete is actually one of the original windows to the house that's just being relocated. So there are no new windows being put in. This is an actual, it's the window that was there from construction of the house that we will only be relocating to the side of the house from the rear wall. So there are no new windows on this project.
The casement?
And just to add, this is Yonat, I'm the homeowner. This porch is not original to the house. It was built, the house is from 1926. The porch was built in the 1940s. And so the window that I'm using is from the original 1926 home. And I'm just moving it to the, from the back to the new, what would be the new bathroom.
Grace Smith here with the planning department. I just would like to clarify that, yes, being that the porch is not original, but they are saving an original window and moving it, and it is on the rear of the house, not the front elevation, but there is no new window. It's moving an existing window. Staff would be comfortable with that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have a question, Jonathan. The rear windows where the door, next to the door, those are not new?
No, there's no.
To the right, sorry.
So what, to the right of the rear door is actually, that's the screen porch. So what you're seeing there is just the screened openings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then on the drawing below that, the detail below that on the side of the house, showing the other side of the house, same thing there. That's just the screened openings.
And to Keegan's question, if I may, you referred to the right of way. Did you mean Englewood, or is there a right of way, another right of way that we don't see?
I meant Englewood, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any discussion amongst the commissioners? Would a commissioner feel comfortable making a motion on this case at this time?
I may. Yeah. Okay, the The Durham Historic Preservation Commission finds that in case COA 200-0060-2103 Englewood Avenue, new construction and addition, the applicant is proposing an addition and modifications to a contributing structure. An existing enclosed rear porch will be removed with windows relocated, an existing foundation maintained and extended as part of the new floor system. A 220 square foot addition over porch foundation, including a bathroom, a screen porch, will be constructed. A 160 square foot deck will be constructed as well, attached to the rear of the addition. Therefore, the conclusion of law is that the proposed addition and alterations are consistent with the historic character and qualities of the historic district and are consistent with the historic properties local review criteria, specifically those listed in the staff report, and the Durham Historic Preservation Commission approves the certificate of appropriateness for case COA 200-0060-2103 Englewood Avenue, new construction and addition. 1, the improvements shall be substantially consistent with the plans and testimony presented to the commission at this commission hearing and attached to this COA. 2, the improvements may require additional approvals from other city or county departments or state or local agencies. The applicant is responsible for obtaining all required approvals relating to building construction, site work, and work in the right-of-way. And 3, a compliance inspection shall be performed immediately upon completion of the work approved herein.
Thanks, Jonathan. Do we have a second?
Second.
April seconds. Thank you. And with that, Madam Terry, can you do a roll call?
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Waiters,
Yes.
Commissioner Down,
Yes.
Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Broussard,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBerry,
Yes.
Commissioner Goolsby,
I'm excused from this, Terry. Yep.
oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry. Commissioner Krager,
Yes.
motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And thank you, Keegan and applicants, for coming today to present the case.
Thank you all.
With that, we will move on to our now second hearing of the day, which is case COA 2000057 2001 West Club Boulevard. If Madam Terry, if you could just swear in the applicants.
Sure. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the public hearing proceedings for today's case is the truth by your own knowledge, information, or belief?
I do.
I do.
Okay.
And then if everyone who plans to speak on this case today could affirm that you consent to the oath, first by stating your name and then by consent. I'm not the oath, I'm sorry, the visual platform of this meeting.
I'm sorry, state your name and your agreement.
Your agreement to doing this visually, yes.
I do, yes. Both.
Julie Cahoon, I do.
Thomas Merrigan, I do.
Thank you. And now there are no commissioners. There are no commissioners who have conflict hearing this case, correct? Okay, hearing none. Bo, can you please present the staff summary?
Sure. Good morning, Commission. Bo Dobrinsky. First, I'd like to ask that all the staff report and attached materials be entered into the record. This is a proposal in the Watts-Hillendale Local Historic District, 2001 West Club Boulevard. This is a contributing structure, existing single family. The proposal is for a two-story addition to the rear of the house and two one-story accessory structures and some site work to include a pool, some hardscape, and some fencing. I would like to note one minor correction from the staff report. It was stated that the rear addition elevation, or the rear addition was going to be equal in height. That is true where it meets, but it is slightly taller at points. This doesn't change the staff's statement that that it appears to meet that particular criterion. It just, as it still seems to be compatible, I just wanted to have that correction noted. At this time, I can ask the applicant to speak on the application, and I'll show any part of the report anyone would like.
I guess that's time for me to speak. Good morning. I'm Tom Merrigan with Linton Architects. This project, as Bo mentioned, is at 2001 West Club Boulevard. It's sort of catty corner from the across the street from the School of Science and Math. The home was built in 1921. It's as you mentioned, it's a two-story wood frame structure on a brick masonry foundation. One of the, as you see the house from the street, it has a wraparound porch, and all volumes that you see from the street are sort of capped with a hip roof construction, a fairly steep hip roof. Trying to think here. So the front four rooms of the house haven't really been affected or touched over the almost 100 years the house has been here. There's been some additions and modifications made to the rear of the house that are evident, came much later. The Sanborn map, kind of, I think it was the 1937 to 1950 Sanborn map, shows these portions of the house, these sort of front four rooms as being original to the house. And it's important to note our project proposes to add and renovate only to the sort of rearmost portions of the house and beyond. The site plan that you see kind of in front of you here, if you look at it, you can kind of see there's three significant rooms, a little bit of a hallway, and another room that kind of bumps out to what's the west side. And it's where the front porch kind of turns along that west side and enters onto that room there. So that those four rooms in that hallway are kind of original to the house. They're the sort of original footprint. There was like a one-story kitchen, we think, added to the sort of eastern side of the house, at the sort of top of the I guess up on the plan that you're looking at, and that's been modified several times through the age of the house. So one of the most unique and character-defining features are the windows on the house. They are most of them are 4/1 double hung wood windows, and they have I think it's mentioned in the sorry, mentioned in the planning report that these are, they have a little bit of a Victorian sort of detail to them. They have a little extra sort of arch in the tracery, in the mutton bars there. So all of these windows are original to the house on the character defining elevation will remain, and also on the volume of the house as it goes back through the lot on the historically significant parts of the house. The proposal is to make an addition to the rear of all of this, and on the drawing that you see in front of you, that addition appears kind of one room beyond the original 4. The addition is only requiring modification to sort of the non-significant portions of the house, the kitchen that has been modified through the age of the house, and beyond that, some of the decks and things that have been added. These areas, like I mentioned, they've already been added to and modified. The volume of the addition, we were very careful to kind of keep the size of it and its roof forms, roof overhangs, and materiality all consistent with the existing house. And so it will have a hip roof as well, with the same slope the existing house has. The addition is also it's placed again on the rear in order to really preserve these significant portions of the house visible from the right of way. There are a series of other things happening related to the project, including a screen porch that's on the west side of the house. Again, it's toward the rear of the, okay, so yeah. So this is, these are kind of diagrams showing some of the Sanborn map and how we are looking at the house. This is funny, I'm not used to doing it this way. This shows a little bit more of a blow up of the actual plan. And you can see here the screen porch on the lower portion of this plan. And there's a series of terraces that kind of step down into the backyard, which is very deep. Beyond the improvements to the house itself are several additional structures. There's existing a non-historic 2-car garage on the west side of the property that's being removed, and a new garage that's being built at the terminus of the eastern driveway. So there are 2 driveways serving the property. One that is exclusive to this property on the east side, and another that shares an apron with this property's western neighbor. And currently the garage is accessed from that west drive, but okay, this drawing here shows kind of the garage beyond. This is the proposed garage beyond on the left side of this drawing. This is a single-story structure with the roof that has the same slope as the existing house, and beyond it is a pool house that also has, it's a 1-story wood frame structure with a roof slope that matches the existing house. So these additional structures are accessory. They're completely entirely to the rear of the house. They're sort of meant to be quieter versions of the house's vocabulary in terms of wood siding and same slope roof and things like that. There's some additional things with fences and walls and things that you can see in the application materials, wood fences that are sort of in keeping with many that we see within the district, walkways and drives. Again, we're sort of just taking what's there and modifying it a little bit. The western driveway currently goes all the way into the backyard, and we will be kind of ending that where the steps up to the side porch occur, so that we can have some planting along that sort of south edge of that driveway. I guess that's kind of conclusion of this. It's a little bit awkward trying to sort of root through. You can kind of see in this drawing, if we pause here, the front of the house on this drawing is to the right side. And so you see the front porch there, and you can kind of see the original volume of the house, you know, this sort of, the front of the house is on the right, and then you get these great windows. This is on the east elevation. And then when you get to the portion that's dashed in where some removal is proposed, we think that according to the Sanborn maps that there was the first floor of that may be original, the foundation and some of the walls, and we're going to salvage those things. The second floor addition, the Sanborn map indicates it's only a one-story piece that was there originally. So the second floor addition was not part of the original construction. And so this is where some of the modifications and renovations start to happen. And then beyond that, further to the left in this drawing shows some decks and further additions that were made even later. And so those areas are getting removed and making way for the addition.
Was there anyone else here to speak for or against this case?
This is Julie Cahoon, and I don't have anything additional to add at this time.
Hearing that, was there any questions from the commissioners for the applicants?
Yes, Katie, I have a few. This is Andy Goolsby. Tom, could you speak to two items for me? One would be the removal of the trees in the rear yard, and two, the second thing is the criteria speak about insetting porches. That's not what appears to be on the plan. So I wonder if you could speak to that porch a little bit and in reference to the criteria.
Sure. Yeah. So to start with the trees, there are two trees that are built very close to the rear of the house. They're within 7 feet of some of the rear structures of the house. And they are very mature trees. These are willow oak trees that are, you know, we see a lot in the district. They appear to be, we've had some folks looking at the trees, and they appear to be towards the sort of end of their lifespan. One estimate put them at close to 90 years old, and they overhang the existing house as they exist today, as the structure and the trees exist today. They're located more than 100 feet from the sidewalk. Any addition or change to the house at the rear portion where we think is most appropriate to add to the house and modify the house would affect the health of the trees. The messing with the ground and laying equipment and moving vehicles back there of any kind will have a unfortunate effect on the trees. Additionally, we've spoken with a couple folks, and there's been detection of an early stages of a disease in at least one of the trees. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the disease, but it's starting to affect at least one of the trees already. I think that from a common sense and just straightforward sort of reading of this, we understand there's criteria that speak to preserving the trees, but I think the trees are living things that we all know are sort of finite in their lifespan, and so in an effort to sort of maximize the other parts of the criteria, in other words, adding to the house and modifying the house only on its rear portion in order to preserve its its character defining elevation and other things. The trees are sort of not in the, they will not be preserved as a part of the proposal. There's a lot more we could probably say about the trees. We're going to be planting new trees as a part of the proposal in order to reestablish and continue to establish the sort of hardwood canopy tree as a part of the district. So a lot of the trees along Club Boulevard, of course, were also willow oaks, and they have been deteriorating, and there's been news about that. Just about 5 or 6 years ago, one of the street trees that's a willow oak at this property had come down and landed, I think, just a few feet near that western driveway that we see here in the sort of closer portion or towards the bottom. And so I think that the homeowners have a very real sense of impact to the existing house, impact this has on sort of the plans to renovate and add to the house, as well as just safety in general for their home. So that's sort of the story, I guess, with the trees. Remind me again. Oh, the port.
Yeah,
sorry.
On the trees real quick. Have you, this is Andy Goolsby again, have you picked a species for the new hardwood trees yet?
I don't know that we've picked a species. I think that we agree that it's a hardwood, that they would be hardwood. I think there's a couple of contenders, certainly oak, but you know, maples. I don't know. I don't know if people are planting willow oaks. They seem to have gotten a little bit of a bad rap just because, you know, at the end of their lifespan, we keep hearing stories about them sort of coming down and needing to be taken down and everything. I don't think we've gotten to that level of detail though, in short.
Bo Dobrinsky's staff here. Yeah, the plans reflect called out a hardwood and from a not, I would suggest we keep that rather than specify a specific tree if you haven't planned it yet, so that we don't have to modify in the future. And then I just wanted to note that as you can see on in the materials, they're preserving a great deal of trees. And actually, after doing a site visit, that you know, I can see here, much of a lot is wooded. And so we made sure that as a part of the application, they were replacing what was being removed. So that was something that was discussed with staff prior to the application.
What caliber trees are they replacing it with?
I'm sorry, caliber. So the diameter, or is that what you're?
Yeah, diameter, breast height.
Well, that's a good question. I would refer to whoever's the sort of landscape. We've just recently hired or brought in a landscape architect who is helping with this. I'm not really an expert on trees, so I can't tell you exactly, but they would not be, I don't think our plan is to put you know, little saplings or seedlings. I think the plan would be to get a tree that's kind of a size that's obviously still plantable. You know, we're not going to try to transplant something that's 50 or 80 years old, but I think it would be a decent sized tree. I don't really know.
Were there any other questions from commissioners? No.
Yes, and then Tom about the screen porch.
Yes, so the screen porch, the house, the kind of massing of the house as it stands today, there's already, there are quite a few bumps and notches and things that occur, outside corners that occur. And on the addition we're making, it does move past the exterior walls on the east and west facades. On the east facade, there's already a notch where the original one-story kitchen was made, and we are sort of abiding that notch and maintaining that in order to give some sort of deference or to kind of call out the addition being made to the rear as being an addition. On the west side, the place where you mentioned the screen porch, here it's a little more complex. The thing that we're trying to do here is the original house was sort of an L shape in terms of its two-story massing. So we get the primary hip roof facing club, and then we have kind of a ridge line that goes further back into the lot. And what happens today is that all of that kind of then disintegrates, and there's lots of weird roofscapes. And so we're trying to bring a little bit of hierarchy here. And so the main addition happens as a bar that crosses the back, similar to the original bar in the front. And it kind of creates a C shape, because that fourth room in the original 4-square plan was just a 1-story volume according to the Sanborn maps. And so what we end up getting is a natural notch, not at the main level, but at the upper level, because as you can kind of see it here, we're maintaining that 1-story volume. And we think that gives a good massing in terms of calling out that here's this significant part that's close to the street, that's 2 stories, and then it kind of necks down to 1 story as it heads back, and then the addition is being made back there. That's not necessarily evident where the porch is. The porch does continue out, but the sort of architecture of the porch is made such that it really reads as a very light, rather than an outdoor room, really light, kind of like stick framed trellisy sort of thing. One of the things we're doing is we're letting it in relative to the 2-story addition that it's parked against, and that allows it to read as something that's kind of honoring the larger wall behind it, the 2-story wall behind it of the addition, so that it kind of feels like it's kind of on that wall rather than exceeding that wall. And so I think the combination of the lightness of its stick frame architecture, its low slope or flat roof, and the fact that it kind of sits on the 2-story addition we're making, sort of help it feel subservient to the parts that are close to the street that are taller and more significant.
Were there any other questions from commissioners for the applicant?
Vice Chair Bouchard here. Andy, do you have any other questions before I ask a few?
No, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Following up on Andy's questions about the trees, I've got a few questions and points of clarification. The existing site plan appears to suggest the removal of 6 trees, not 2 trees, while the application itself makes reference to the removal of just the 2 trees closest to the house. Is the intent to remove the 2 trees closest to the house plus 4 other trees that appear to perhaps be in or near the footprint of the new accessory structures and or the pool?
That's a good question. I think that our focus has been on the trees closest to the house for the reason that their presence is just more felt on the street. I think that we would endeavor to, we haven't gotten to the point, because there's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing here with we always face this with preservation, historic preservation, trying to get as specific as possible without necessarily having a approval to do the things that we're trying to get specific about. And so I think we need to kind of map out and flag if there are any other trees and what diameter those trees are, because there's as Bo mentioned, there are, especially at the very rear of the lot, a great deal of trees that we're leaving alone. But there may be 1 or 2, and I don't know if they are larger than 12 inches or not in the diameter. Again, we need someone who can come out and kind of sort of get a caliper reading, get a diameter reading on some of these trees. So it's a little bit hard to know exactly whether those things needed to be included in this application. I think that if I guess if folks are comfortable with it, we can get much more specific quickly and give Bo or Carla or whomever an update on that would include sort of those details. For the approval process of today, I think you know, I think that the two trees closest to the property are the significant ones, and that we could, I don't know, I'm not sure what the suggestion could be other than having sort of an administrative read of any other trees as we get more specific with those trees.
And speaking, Mr. Merrigan, to the two trees closest to the house, when I'm looking at this Google Street View screenshot on page 1 of 10 of the COA, would it be basically that the trees I'm seeing immediately behind the house that would be removed?
I'm not positive. I know there are, yes, I think two of those trees are the ones immediately behind the house. I believe the middle one and the one to the right. There's another tree that you see that looks like a similar size tree. And I think that the photograph may be a little deceptive in the sense that that one I think is further back, and it's much closer to the fence line. It may not even be on the property at that point. It's not something that we've identified as being necessary to remove. It's
Okay.
just the two closest to the house that I think are center and to the right here.
Center and to the right. Okay, thank you.
Jonathan Down. I have a couple questions. And some maybe are for Bo, but maybe that we'll do afterwards. When you look at your design from the street, would the new addition be visible above the building?
I think we have some views of that in our application. I don't know if it's
And
easy.
it shows there that it would. I'm just asking if that's the case.
The addition, let me think about, can you repeat the question? That would it be visible above is your question?
Right, so you have the roof line right now, the
Mhm.
top. That's not if you go to 11, drawing 11.
Drawing 11. Okay.
24. I think you're much further the other direction. To sketch, proposed north elevation. There it is.
Yes. So in a two-dimensional elevation drawing, you see the total roof height of the addition is a little bit higher than the current ridge line of the house.
Higher and wider.
Yes. That said, the criteria I think say that from the street, views from the street, I don't remember the exact, I'd have to look up the exact sort of criteria. And we discussed this a little bit with Carla, that views from the street, the addition should look in keeping with or below the height when viewed from the street, which
I can give you the criteria is designed the height of additions to be compatible with the historic structure and to be subordinate to the historic structure when viewed from the property street frontage.
Right. So this two-dimensional elevation is, so when we used to do this, it was always elevational things that were considered, and we couldn't really enter in three-dimensional perspectival views. And I think that's sort of changed recently. And I think that's a good change, just because it's important to note that this is sort of a view of what it would look like from an infinite distance away towards the north here. So if we go back down to the, I guess the view, I think the 3D view that you see, and I think it was, where were we, 24 or 25 or maybe further? Yeah, here we go. So the 24, I think it was, kind of shows that from the street, this is looking from Club Boulevard towards the principal elevation of the house. You do see the addition behind, but just the laws of perspective help keep that addition in sort of in keeping, compatible with the existing sort of architecture or existing height, and kind of, because of the laws of perspective, they don't overpower it. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do. Again, keeping everything on the rear of the house is helping us a lot with keeping the front of the house feeling like it's preserved and is significant.
Okay. The other part is for street view, and it looks like the vegetation does disturb it. Right now, to the side of the, well, front elevation would have one garage on the right side. The garage would move to the left. You won't have an additional structure on the right except for the pool. And you have the porch.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
That's right. Yes. Porch. Yes, the screen porch you can kind of see in this one, in this view right here, is again, it's sort of a stick built post and beam structure.
Okay. The windows in the rear of the casement, where are they going?
So all of the windows you will see from the street are similar double hung 4/1.
I'm not talking about the 4/1. I'm asking about the.
Yes, there will be some that are specific only to the rear, never visible from the street, and those are single sash casement, undivided casement, just in the sort of nook space, the breakfast nook, which you see kind of maybe in that gabled bay in this view, on the lower level.
Then my next questions would be to staff, but that would be afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can we go to the view of the garage from the street? Have you chosen garage doors for this project?
Not specifically. I think that we trying to remember what the doors. I think they would be sort of a wood panelized door with. I think that we had in our elevation drawing may have shown some glass in the upper portions, in the upper panels of some of the. They would be overhead segmented garage doors. But I think that they would be sort of a painted wood with some glass lights in one of the upper panels, one of the upper segments of those doors.
So that's not pure glass, that orange.
No, I don't think it would be all glass. I think it would just be more like like a lot of the garage doors you see in the district, where there is some glass, but it's usually limited to just sort of the top or the second from the top segment.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from commissioners? Jonathan, did you want to go ahead and ask questions?
Yeah, so my question is for the criteria about Windows F4. How do we deal with it saying select new or replacement windows that conform to the shape, proportion, and configuration? Yeah, the configuration of window lights or panes.
I'm sorry, is that a question for me?
The staff, sorry.
Okay. No problem.
Sure. Bo Dobrinsky, certainly the applicant can chime in as they're sort of making the argument for it. When we were evaluating this, the majority of the windows provided were matching in terms of the 401 double hung. The for the bulk of the addition, the casement windows to the rear were similar in shape, obviously not style, similar in shape and on a non-character defining elevation and truthfully not visible from, not visible from anywhere except probably their patio that they're, so that was sort of our evaluation. Obviously the word similar, the shape is somewhat vague, but.
If I can chime in just for a moment, one of the other parts of the criteria is to make sure that the addition resonates with or is in keeping with the sort of architecture of the original house, but also is differentiated and not the same. And so this is always a little bit of a tightrope walk. And I think one of the things we're doing is where we are doing the 4/1 double hungs, we aren't trying to copy the sort of what I'll call tracery, the Munton pattern that adds sort of a gable or a pediment in the top portions of the window. And so we're keeping the windows in the new edition where they are the 4/1. We're keeping them a slightly simpler version of the 4/1. And then by the time we get to the very rear elevation, the part that's literally not ever visible from the public, it seemed like giving a nod to, or sort of saying that, yes, this is new. This is not, the proportions are kind of the same as Bo mentioned. The sizes are sort of the same, but it's not quite, it's not trying to be too historic or copying too much the original.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is something for discussion for the commission, maybe after the questions. One last question for Bo. I think that you probably are the best person to answer this about setbacks. Any issue with the setbacks and building the pool, garage, and accessory building into the setbacks?
There were no issues with setbacks with the proposal, as it was shown. Good question though, because that was the first thing I looked at when I saw it. So there's a lot going on there.
Thanks.
Were there any other commissioner questions for applicant or staff?
Grace Smith, if I could interject just for a second. The staff, we've been chatting behind the scenes, and we may have some language for you to add to the motion that would cover the concerns about the trees. You could add a bullet to the motion that basically states that they will plant 2 new trees of a minimum DBH of 12 feet at maturity and in accordance with the Durham Landscape Manual. If that's something that you would like to add to the motion, we can help you with that when it comes time to make the motions.
Okay, yeah, I do find the current language of the applicant saying that it's 20-foot max, not really covering what I think it needs to. So that would be good to add a minimum size at planting and a minimum size at maturity. And Jonathan, I guess let's close the public hearing portion of this. I don't think we have any more questions for the applicants. And let's open it up to discussion within the commission. Jonathan, would you like to kick us off with your thoughts about the windows?
Yeah, so my problem is how to deal with I think the massing of the height is understood in the three-dimensional drawings. Give me ease. Thank you for those drawings. For the windows, it's very clear in the where I lost it, F4. It's very clear that it says that we need to keep configuration of the window lights, not referring to any other section or guideline. I'm afraid of a precedent of, so I understand that this is not seen from the street, but it's not regarded to be seen from the street in the guideline here. And maybe the lawyers on our commission can help out too. That another applicant would say, okay, this is still in the rear behind an addition. I'm also not concerned much about the distinguishing it from the historic building with the new addition, because the new addition already does that both in where it's placed and it's niching out, I would say. So I'm just concerned with modern windows in the rear that are not congruent with the rest of the house.
Were there any other commissioners who had thoughts on the modern windows and strong opinions?
And I really like modern windows, don't get me wrong.
Now, Jonathan, I do agree that there's some language in the criteria that's one or two words that are gonna caught up here for you. I think it's this language about the windows. For me, it's the inset on that porch piece. And with regards to the windows, yeah, I think there's some clear criteria about the configuration of it. So I agree with you there.
Giving Matt opportunity to read that. Lawyer it up. I agree though, the way I read it is the same as Jonathan.
Maybe Tom too, I don't know.
Jonathan, I agree with your reading on it.
I'm just not sure there's any way of reading it differently. Vice Chair Bouchard here. I mean, we have F1 that makes it clear that applicants are to retain window openings in their original size, proportion, and location on street facing and character defining elevations. Well, that limitation is nowhere to be found in F4 with respect to the configuration of the window lights, open parens, panes, close parens. That criteria is not limited to street facing or character defining elevation. So I'm troubled just as Jonathan is.
Okay, so I guess I would ask Grace, do you have, I'm sorry, there's lawn maintenance occurring in my house right now. Grace, do you have a recommendation on whether this should be sent back to staff for further evaluation and come back before us with the changes?
If you could just give us a moment, I'm actually reading the criteria myself. If you could just give us one moment, we'll be right back with you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do we have a count on the total number of windows this affects? Is my count of 6 incorrect? That's definitely incorrect.
I think it's 5.
It's 5. All right. And I'm looking at the proposed south elevation. Everything to the left of those 5 windows are clearly patio doors, not windows. Would not be affected by F4.
That's not what the floor plan shows, Matt. It's Andy Goolsby. Floor plan 7. There's only a pair of doors. Is that right, Tom? Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I guess what defines a window versus a door is a little bit of a question. The door folks would call all of those things on the proposed south elevation that are to the left side, doors. Some of them happen to be fixed. So they read as doors sort of visually. And so we call them in our drawing side lights, but they would be from a door manufacturer, and we kind of think of those as doors. To clarify about the casement windows, there are 5 on the south elevation, but if you look at drawing 13 shows 2 more on the east elevation, and I think that's it. I think that I haven't said anything mainly because I think you guys, my read is that you guys are speaking within the context of the commission. But I think that, if we needed to look at these easement windows, we could certainly come up with an alternate proposal.
I think that if we can match them, and I don't know if we need to deal with the doors or not, but for the windows itself, if we match them, I don't think there's any issue with the criteria. That would match the criteria per se.
In your opinion, do you think the matching needs to be in operability or just in the way that it's divided? I think the criteria sound more like they're talking about that conform to the shape, proportion, and configuration of window lights, in parentheses, panes of windows original to the structure. And so if the owner was interested in maintaining casement type windows, this piece of the criteria doesn't seem to, this is a question, it may not speak to the type of window, it may only be speaking to, again, the proportion and the division and configuration. And so I think that we would want clarity about whether having casements that have mutton bars in them that mimic or follow the same division of lights and things as the other windows that we're showing would be sufficient, or whether or not, or would they need to be actual double hung windows?
Myself, I've never seen a casement window like that, but I don't think the criteria addresses it, so I don't think that's an issue if that could be proposed. At least in my opinion. I'm speaking for myself, not the whole commission.
Sure.
I agree, Jonathan, whether it's double hung or casement, it's really just the appearance of it we're concerned, not the operation of it.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably, it's not our first choice, but I think I see exactly what you're pointing to in the criteria. I think it's worth noting that the new windows we're putting on the house, as I mentioned, they follow very, very closely to the original 4/1 double hungs, but we felt like it was appropriate to make some nod to the fact that they weren't trying to be those old windows. And so having that sort of pedimented or angled piece of the mutton at the very top of those divided lights in the upper sash was something we were deliberate about doing. And I think that in some ways that is in violation of this criteria, because we're not copying exactly. It says it shall conform to, but it doesn't say if it should copy, or if it should be in keeping with, or it should be, I forget what some of the other terms that are, I think, in the defined portion of the criteria where they define things. There's in the definitions, there's somewhere that talks about.
Yeah, Tom, I think where the piece that's helpful is the clarification about the configuration of window lights being panes.
Right.
Which what you're proposing is the 4/1.
Right.
But I don't see any language that specifies the curvature piece, the arch piece.
Okay.
Chair Hamilton, you had asked our thoughts on this, and the staff has been chatting back and forth, and we understand the chair and the board's position and concerns, and we agree that it doesn't, if you're looking for appearance to be the same and that's what you're looking for, that's probably, perfectly fine, and that's in your purview. We do not, we do also agree that it doesn't matter whether they're casement or they're double hung, if you're just looking for the appearance. But I think our thoughts were the windows were on the back. I know the criteria is very straightforward in its read. However, you do have some discretion in that regard. If you're not comfortable with the proposal, then you can continue to work with the applicant. If they can propose something different here in this meeting, or it can be continued and they can work behind the scenes and come back. Or we could certainly take some changes here on the spot if that's what they would like to do to keep moving forward. It's really up to the applicant and the commission at this point.
I suppose the question is for the applicant. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bo Dobrinsky, I just want to chime in, and also because I don't think this was stated in the report. The applicant had mentioned it as a means to differentiate the addition, and staff agrees with that as an appropriate way to, and he used the term, nod at the addition not being the original, not trying to match. So I just want to also throw that in there.
Agreed as well. That there's different ways to differentiate additions. You can use different siding materials. You can use trim boards, things like that. This applicant, I believe, is trying to do that through the way of the windows that face the rear yard. So I agree with Mr. Dobrinsky in that regard. However, it is up to the commission.
I would add to just thinking of the precedent, because that means that we're really changing the criteria at this point to allow anyone putting any type of window, at least the shape and the size are the same, apart for shape and size, and the rear, and say it's differentiating it. If we're fine with it, then I think that would be fine. But I think that at this point, we won't be able to stop anyone else doing the same. And there's also no limitation to how many windows in an addition can be added that are different in configuration.
Vice Chair Bouchard, Jonathan, I don't deny that at all, but and I don't know how I missed this the first time around. I suppose we could construe F2 in a way that would allow us to move forward with the casement windows as currently designed. F2 says when window openings are modified, added, or removed on non-character defining non-street facing elevations, retain the overall rhythm and individual proportion of window openings on the structure. nothing about conformance. I'm not sure how you can reconcile that with F4. But to Grace's point, there may be some flexibility for us to make a call on this since it is a non-street facing elevation.
Bo Dobrinsky, the staff here. I certainly, from a practical standpoint, understand exactly what Commissioner John Down is saying about precedent, but I just want to note that being quasi-judicial, each application should be evaluated on its individual merits, and each property is different, so that it's certainly understandable and possible that one proposal could have a certain type of window or have different windows and another couldn't, and you could deny it with legitimate findings of fact.
Yes, and Grace Smith here, I would like to agree with Bo on that. You're not changing through your action. If you find within your discretion that this meets the criteria, very similar to what Mr. Bashar was just saying, you're not changing the criteria through this action. This is 100% focused on this one application and based on its merits and its and your findings of fact in regard to this application. It does not change the criteria for future applications.
Is that what legal counsel thinks as well?
Krista Kukuro, City Attorney's Office. I do agree with that. The comments that Bo and Grace offered. You know, I appreciate the concerns that the board has articulated, but I do think that each application is considered on its merit, on its facts. You know, I think what you have explained, Commissioner Diane, is that you know, this is just part of the board's history and decision making. And, you know, if there was a very similarly situated property, the board would need to consider it similarly. But chances are it would be unlikely that you would have this exact fact pattern or scenario. And so each case gets considered on its facts.
So how do we reconcile, and thank you very much, Matt, for the distinction between F2 and F4. And I'm trying, let's say we want to move forward with F2, and which would allow it, as Matt said. How do we reconcile it with F4?
Yeah, this is Matt. I still don't have an answer to that question. I really don't. It's tough to glean the intent of the authors of the criteria on this particular issue. Matt Bouchard again. The straightforward way out of this, I guess, is if the applicant is willing to make these 7 windows 4/1 in their configuration. But if that's not something the applicant's prepared to do during this hearing, then I'm at a loss to determine how best to proceed.
I'm hesitant to volunteer. It's sort of like who goes first, right? It's you know, we've put forth an application that we think is in keeping with the criteria. I see a clear discrepancy between F2 and F4. I don't think that think that we're prepared to make compromises, and came to this meeting very much, wanting to hear everybody's feedback and everything. But I'm hesitant to suggest that the easiest way out would just to have the applicant say the 4/1 is fine. It may come to that, and I'm not necessarily saying that's off the table or anything, but I also would like to hear the commission and the staff rule on the sort of the application we've put forward using these criteria.
Katie, there are some implications of us ruling if we decide to deny it for the windows.
Yeah, I would prefer we don't deny it just based on the implications of that with the year delay and everything. So if we were going to go that route, I would say we would need to just send the applicant back to staff to work on it. We should not deny it outright. If it's a matter of something as minor as this and it's not an overall opposal to the application as presented, to me, I've been rereading F2 and F4 for a while. And
what happens if we hypothetical, if we vote on a 4/1 and there's a change, would that, maybe that's for Bo, is that a staff change? Is that a minor change? If no, it's criteria, I don't know. Grace. Someone.
So, I mean, you could typically, we can do field adjustments for minor changes, but this has been such a large discussion here at this hearing. I don't feel comfortable with us making a field adjustment to change out the windows at the end of the process. And I believe our legal counsel would like to say something, so I'm going to let her chime in.
Krista Kukro, City Attorney's Office. I do want to just offer to the board, sort of in the conversation that we're having about section F, that I do think it has to be read in tandem with section H on the following page, and which is on additions, because I think what we're sort of, and again, I can't really speak, like Matt said, to the intent of the drafters, but I do think that F is more focused on the windows in the context of sort of the existing structure. So in F4, where it says select new or replacement windows, I don't really think that that's necessarily contemplating new or replacement windows in a new addition. That's why we have section H, which speaks to addition and is a little bit more broad in its language about how it treats windows. That is in H3. And so I just want to point that out for the board's consideration in this conversation, because I do think that this is a tricky one that we're navigating, but I do want to point that out as the board contemplates.
H3 is footprint?
Sorry, what was that?
You said H3? That's footprint of additions? How is that related?
The version that I have, H3 talks about design additions to be compatible with and subordinate to the historic structure and mass proportion, general amount of and pattern of window and door openings. I may be looking at a different version.
It's H2 in the newer version, I think, Jonathan, where it does speak to additions need to be distinguishable through placement and or design.
Grace informed me I'm looking at the old version, so sorry about that.
Actually, as a note to staff, we do need to publish the new version if it's been approved by City Council. I don't think it's currently linked on the website, but
it is not. We're in the process, probably in the next 5 days, publishing it. We had some technical issues with some maps that needed to be included in that version, and it's been challenging. So it should be posted in the next 5 or so business days. I'm going to email Krista the current version right now.
It is 10:30, and I know that some people need to get off, so maybe Matt, last words and thought about H.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So we, H2, does that reconcile it better with F4 for additions specifically?
I mean, I think we could rely upon H2 in determining whether or not the addition, particularly that south elevation, is incongruous with the overall historic character of the primary building, and conclude it is not incongruous. But whenever I'm construing language like this in our criteria, I usually default to specific provisions should govern over general provisions. And so we've got this specific provision regarding the window lights. And it's kind of hard to ignore that, since that's far more specific with respect to the discrete issue we're looking at here, i.e. these casement windows, than H2 is. So I'm still having trouble reconciling H2 with F4 with respect to this particular issue.
Wish April was still on here, because there is obviously a historic preference in certain instances for the additions to be distinct and not to mimic exactly the existing, so that you really are able to, tell how the building has grown over time. And I do think having a different type of window supports that style of preservation. And I mean, Chris's point to how F4 is worded, where it speaks of new and replacement windows, does kind of feel like it is relative to the existing structure, or the, original structure. But I don't have a strong opinion as to how to interpret these either. I'm not sure, really. This is a hard one. Andy, you're the architect. How do you feel?
Well, it's hard because I really understand why they did what they're doing. It does bring me comfort that it is in the rear. It's of similar proportions. You have the larger glass panes of the doors with their side lights, which are fairly large comparatively to other precedences of its nature. But they're continuing that band of destructive glass across that elevation. So I truly understand why they're doing this. I also am a stickler for what things say. So if we're having a hard time getting confusion or having confusion about what this is, I would lean towards having the applicant or take it back to staff and work through and just confirm this works within the criteria.
It's interesting because I feel like I've been in similar situations with making an addition that was that followed H2 very, very much, but was trying almost to be more distinctive from the original structure, and having made those kinds of applications with some success, and you know, folks saying that, yeah, it's okay for it to look and be different. It carried through the windows or materiality or other things, you know, sort of, there's always, like I say, this slippery slope between copying what's there and trying to make it look historic and making it really seem like it's new, but it is still congruous. And so I feel like in some ways we've gone very far, because all the parts that you see from the public right of way are in fact, you know, 4/1 and materials and roof slopes and overhangs, and you know, that whole palette, the vocabulary, proportions and things are very much in keeping with it. And it's just sort of this one area on the back of the house. Again, I feel like other applications I've seen or been part of, you know, give a little bit more leeway to an addition than this. That's not to say F4 is not intended for this. It's hard to know.
Would that mean that any addition accessory building in the rear is can have modern windows in the historic district?
I'm not sure about that, and I'm not going to speak to that necessarily, but I will just speak to the fact that on other applications I've seen, that did become something that was approved and was and a lot often case it is related to the fact that it isn't part of the historic fabric. It's a new thing, and so I think that's why I really like H2, because it's talking about, it's compatible with, and it's the massing and the proportion. It's not talking about the lights of the glass, you know. That seems like a very specific to the original house piece of this. I'm ruminating and just speculating here. So I don't know what the intent was with the criteria, but there's clearly conflict within it. F2 and F4 don't agree, and then H2 is also another tangent, I guess, to it. So to me, it doesn't seem like it's very clear.
Bo Dobrinsky with staff here. We said it earlier. I wanted to remind folks that, you know, this case is special. So, or nothing special in this case, but each case is special. So the set of facts will dictate the decision. So if these windows were approved here, it wouldn't necessarily mean that modern windows would be approved throughout. And I agree with the comment that was just made about the criteria, sort of, though as it relates to H2, I'm not sure if there's a conflict as much as there's an insinuation of priority that isn't stated. At least that's I think staff's read in terms of the criteria for an addition and then how the specifics are laid out. So I just wanted to try and help out.
So which one do you think perceives the specific F or the general H?
I think our read, and probably why other cases may have had more leniency as a part of their consideration, is that H had been prioritized in terms of the discussion and consideration. Again, it doesn't state that, so I'm not, and I'm a stickler for words as well. So, but I did want to chime in that I think it's not that they're completely conflicting. I think it's just one. You know, it's the specifics versus the broader one in H.
Katie?
Sorry, what?
It's your call how to move forward.
Well, I guess, how many commissioners do we have on the line right now? we still have a quorum, correct? Okay. Or for the, guess, can I get like everybody's temperature on this? Would they approve it with the casement windows as proposed?
I would not. I would really prefer giving that, and I don't want to deny the application. By the way, my personal feeling is that it does look great. Those windows are appropriate in the like Andy said. I think it's appropriate where it is and how it's designed. I have a problem with the criteria, and I do, and I understand what Bo and staff spoke about being a unique situation. However, it's very hard for me to distinguish what makes this one so unique. And that's why I won't be able to vote. And to approve this in the meantime, I would really, appreciate if we can leave that aside in a way so we can approve the whole application, then come back only to disregard if needed. But that's not for me to decide, that's for the applicant.
Katie, this is Andy. Given that it seems like the commission's okay with the other factors in its house, yeah, I think the one piece is the windows, and just getting clarification about this piece. So I would vote no right now.
Okay. So with that in mind, my question to the applicant is, would you prefer to propose today to use the simulated divided light casement windows as you discussed, or would you prefer to have this taken back so that you can, either discuss amongst yourself or come up with another concept and bring it back forward with the windows? And we can, I think today, approve everything other than those windows, but that would be the question of the applicant.
Thank you, and I very much appreciate this discussion, and I think I'm not trying to drag this out or anything else. If I think at the end of the day, the decision about how the windows are configured in this one small area is not a big deal to us, and so I think agreeing to have those be configured as either double hung 4/1, similar to the other windows we have proposed, or having them be casement 4/1 with just mutton bars that again will mimic the same division of lights and proportions of those lights that you see in the double hung examples. We're willing to do that, and so I think that probably seems like the easiest way forward at this point. I appreciate all the conversations about it. I think that there does seem to be a lot of relevant debate about it. So, but yeah, I'll put that forward as a kind of way forward. We can certainly change those and agree in this approval that those windows be 4/1 in their visual read.
All right, so with that, we will move forward with this case with the additions to the modifications to the application of that the rear windows will be 4/1 simulated divided light in either a casement configure operation or double hung operation. And then with respect to the trees, Grace, I know you'd said you were working on wordsmithing that. Have you an opportunity?
Yes. So I think an acceptable motion for that would be, hold on one second. I have to go back to where I was. Let's see. let's see. Okay, so I think what you can do, you can add a bullet for the landscaping, or you can change the bullet for the landscaping that states that any new plantings of minimum, any new plantings would, let's see here. New trees of a minimum DBH of 12 feet in maturity and in accordance with the Durham Landscape Manual. So you can wordsmith how you want, but I think it needs to state that it would be a minimum diameter at breast height of 12 feet at maturity and in accordance with the Durham Landscape Manual. And then that way the species can be decided upon later.
So the minimum DBH is diameter at breast height, so that is 2.5 inches, and then a minimum maximum height at maturity of 12 feet.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Yeah. You got it.
No
I knew
worries.
you would, because that's your space. So
Fine, I always mess up and say caliper when I mean DBH, and then get told I'm wrong. So,
Another quick point, Vice Chair Bouchard here on the trees. Since the motion will have our usual language about the work being in accordance with the application materials, those application materials right now do call for the removal of 4 additional trees. So I don't know if in connection with this bullet point we're writing related to plantings of new trees, we also want to limit the trees that are going to be removed to the 2 closest to the existing historic structure.
my understanding is that the application still called for the removal of those rear trees, does it not? I know that was kind of a Tom saying they might be able to preserve them, but they might not. So I think if we are going to approve it today, we should approve it with the understanding that those might be removed, but that they could save them. Correct? Tom, is that?
Yeah, the trees further back, we have not we don't have a precise measure of the number of trees that measure greater than 12 inches. I think that if it's okay with everybody, we would say that if there's another tree that's greater than 12 inches that we find as we survey and get closer to this further back, that we would need to go back to staff or something like that. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with how the commission's the gears turn and everything. So, but yeah, so I would defer to whatever you guys say, but it is true that there are other trees further back that that just don't have the level of precision about where exactly they're placed and how big they are. And so if the approval today is just regarding these 2 trees, that's another way forward. We could say that if there were additional trees, then we would have to go back to someone.
the staff could offer this. We could focus on the 2 trees that we know are mature, and then they could present evidence or materials to staff later and receive approval for the other tree removal through a minor COA, versus having to come back through the commission if you just wanted to focus on the 2 that you know will be removed. And then that way you don't have to worry about any other trees that might come into play. They would be reviewed by staff and we would work with them to be sure they're replaced accordingly or appropriately. Oh, and also the changes with the windows, that would have to be a condition on the COA because it was added today during the meeting. So that would need to be a condition versus a bullet in the motion. That needs to be part of the conditions.
Thank you, Grace. So with all of that new knowledge, is anyone willing to take a stab at the motion? Sorry. So we're going to add to the existing motion, we're going to add a condition that the closed casement windows will now be a simulated 4/1 divided light window that is either casement or double hung, and that the trees any additional trees beyond the 2 closest to the existing structure that are to be removed shall be subject to minor COAs.
Why do we need to add that? That's obvious, right? If they have any changes and it's a minor COA, they just go to staff and ask for it.
Correct. You just need to focus on the 2, and then if there are other trees to be dealt with, we will deal with that separately. That is correct. Thank you, Commissioner Dan.
All right, so we're going to say this is limited to just the 2 trees closest, because they do have graphics that show 6 trees being removed. So that's where we need to clarify that we're only approving the 2 trees closest to the building.
Wait, we're not approving all the removing, I missed this. I thought we're approving all trees to be removed and only 2 to be replanted. Because the other trees will affect, they need to remove them for the accessory pool structure and the pool itself.
So that's what I thought we were doing at first, but then after speaking with Tom, I thought we were saying that they might not need to, so we weren't going to approve that, and that was going to be subject to a staff approval later.
Minor COA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that it's these 2 trees are the ones that are really in the limelight. They're the ones that we know we're going to need to get rid of. There's other trees back there that may or may not be big enough to warrant consideration or the sort of staff or whomever's approval. So I think that, to me, it sounds like if we just say that these 2 trees are the subject of this approval, and that are included in the removal of these are included in this approval, then that would satisfy.
From your drawings right now, I just want to be clear, because if we don't approve this, I don't see how you can build a structure on 2 trees, because you have the two of the 4 trees are on the pool structure, and the 4th tree, maybe the one in between is not, but the 4th tree that it's where the pool itself is, it looks like the foundations of the pool and the tree are at the same point on drawing 1.
I think the location and the size of those trees is to be confirmed. So I think the 2 that are closest to the house, the size and location of those is confirmed. So I think that speaks to, I think, the approval that we're after.
Okay. Andy, Matt, someone.
Yeah, I'm working on, I just sent one for a motion for review in the chat. I'm trying to get the condition pulled up.
City Attorney's Office. Just for the benefit of anyone who may be listening or watching on YouTube, Andy sent in the chat proposed language for a motion, which says 2 trees closest to the house will be removed and replaced with plantings having matured DBH of 12 feet. And additionally, I added, for the commission's reference, the added condition regarding windows. I see Katie, you shaking your head.
Yeah, Katie, give it to me. I'm not landscape architect.
Right, guys. DVH is diameter of the trunk. It can't be 12 feet. All right. That's like
It's a big tree.
Disney Tree of Life size. It's going to be 12 height. My
So maybe when it comes up for an actual motion, that can be revised. I'm just reading it from the chat for the benefit of YouTube watchers who I don't think are able to see the chat. And then I also offered for the board an added condition regarding the windows, which Katie had already stated, but I wanted everyone to be able to see it. Casement windows will be simulated divided light, 4/1 that can be casement or double hung. I guess the first casement should be removed, but there you
go. Yeah, perfect. So Andy, when you
mature height of 12 feet.
Yes, and a minimum DBH of 2.5 inches at install.
Two and a half inches.
Yeah, inches, not feet.
Yep.
No, I know. It's very confusing. There's too many words regarding trees. All right, Andy.
Yeah. All right. I have a motion. The Durham Historic Preservation Commission finds that in case COA 2000057 2001 Club Boulevard, removal of non-contributing accessory structure, construction of 2 new accessory structures with associated site work, and a 2-story addition to the rear of a single-family dwelling. The applicant is proposing a 2-story addition, modification, and site work to a contributing structure. The existing non-contributing accessory structure dating from the 1950s, post-dating the 1920s primary structure will be removed. 2 new 1-story accessory structures will be constructed. An in-ground pool and associated concrete and stone paver walkways will be constructed in the rear yard. 2 trees closest to the house will be removed and replaced with plantings having a mature height of 12 feet and a minimum DBH of 2.5 inches at install. Therefore, the conclusion of law is that the proposed additions and alterations are consistent with the historic character and qualities of the historic district and are consistent with the historic property local review criteria, specifically those listed in the staff report, and the Durham Historic Preservation Commission approves the certificate of appropriateness for case COA 2000057 2001 West Club Boulevard, scope of work with the following conditions. 1, the improvements shall be substantially consistent with the plans and testimony presented to the commission at this commission hearing and attached to this COA. 2, the improvements may require additional approval from other city or county departments or state or local agencies. The applicant is responsible for obtaining all required approvals relating to building construction, site work, and work in the right of way, and a compliance inspection shall be performed immediately upon completion of the work approved herein. 4, windows will be simulated divided light 4/1 that can be casement or double hung.
Did we have a second?
Second. Maybe we want to clarify it's only the rear windows in the addition. I don't know if we have to.
I think that's the only place they proposed the casement, right?
And also maybe a single hung can also be optional. Any hung.
Yeah, that's true. Single hung's fine.
So do I need to amend what I just said or remind me the process for that?
think Krista Kukro, City Attorney's Office, I think if you want to accept those as a friendly amendment, I think that that's fine.
Do I need to state it, Krista?
If you want to state that last condition regarding the windows, I think that would be helpful for the group.
Okay. All right. I'm going to amend the last condition to restate it as the fourth condition: windows will be stimulated divided light 4/1 on the rear elevation that can be casement, double hung, or single hung.
And then with that revised one, are we now good to do a roll call vote, Terry?
Yes. Commissioner Dan,
Yes.
Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pashard,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBerry,
Yes.
and Commissioner Goldsby.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
And it is going to be a beautiful project.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
All right. And then thank you again to the applicants. I think we can now close case COA 200057. There's no new or old business on the agenda, correct?
That is correct, Chair Hamilton. I do have two announcements. I did receive confirmation from the county clerk's office that we did have an appointment made to replace Commissioner Jordan. So I will get with that person and work on acclimating them through orientation and get them on board as soon as possible. Just wanted to make sure you knew that. And also, well, three things. Back to the revised criteria, the updated criteria online. We should have that posted in the next, hopefully, 5 business days. We've had some technology issues with the mapping that we had to basically redo all the mapping for that. So yeah, at any rate, it's getting there. The Word document, the actual wording in the text is correct. So we may post it and just have a holding spot for the map for the moment. That might be the best thing to do. The other thing was next month, we're going to have several cases. So I would ask that you not have any conflicts with your time, if possible. I will send out an email to the others that have already left the meeting. I know that it seems like every month we have at least 3 people that say they have to leave by 10:30. So this is a heads up that maybe next month you program a little extra time, maybe to stay at least till 11:30. It may go till noon because we have several cases. So I'm just throwing that out there. We would like to not be caught without a quorum. So I will be sure to remind the others. And thank you for your participation today. And we look forward to seeing you again virtually.
Thanks, Grace, and thanks for the update for next week. I think with that, we are good to adjourn.
Thanks, Pete.
Next month, not next week. Bye.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Bye, everyone.